Master horse racing with daily racing forms Formulator, now free for DRF Bets members. Sign up to get the best bonus in racing with a $250 deposit match, plus a $10 free bet and free Formulator past performances. Go to drf.com/bet to play like a pro today.
Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The DRF race of the day for Friday, May the 19th is the Black-Eyed Susan, a grade 2, $300,000. It's at 1 1/8 and it's at Pimlico where we are for Preakness weekend. This is a major race for the 3-year-old filly division. But remember, before we get a look at the entry card, click and scan that QR code for daily racing form past performances available on DRF.com for Preakness Saturday. Here's the field for the Black-Eyed Susan, Mike. And listen, Faiza's the leader of the division. I know she didn't run in the Kentucky Oaks. She's an unbeaten 5 for 5. She's trained by Bob Baffert. She's taken a lot of money here.
Yeah, that's the right lead into this race. And I was going to say it's a big field with no real standout. I guess that's not true, is it? We have an undefeated horse shipping in for Baffert in this race. I guess maybe she's a little bit of a standout here. I'm still not completely sold on her.
Well, let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector, because Faiza is a kind of horse that likes to be close to the pace, and we see this red bar scenario on Timeform US indicating a potential fast pace. Now, I'm not sure exactly how fast the pace is going to be in here. I'm not sure the one's going to make the lead, but I think she will work out a good trip while saving ground.
I was kind of confused about the pace in this race, Dan. I didn't necessarily see it being that fast, but I suppose that's certainly possible. It's a big field, and certainly some of these fillies will be going for position. I just don't know who's going to wind up on the lead.
Don't you think there's a chance if Faiza catches a flyer, she's going?
Yeah.
Let's start things off with the number 1, Sacred Wish, who in her first start for George Weaver ran second in this race, the grade 2 Gulfstream Park Oaks. It was her first start around 2 turns, her first start against winners, and I thought she acquitted herself quite well. The problem, as has been the case with most of these 3-year-old fillies in the entire division all spring, didn't come back a fast race.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I love the Gulfstream Park Oaks as a race overall. I liked what this filly did in there, though. That trip, to say it didn't work out, I think would be an understatement. Caught wide on the first turn, wide all the way up the backstretch, wide on the second turn. Still finished up pretty well in there to prevail for second. I thought she ran an underrated race that day. I liked her first 2 starts at Oaklawn sprinting as well. There's upside here. She could fall into a trip from the rail at a price.
Agree with everything you say, and the price is there. 10-1 on the morning line. John Velasquez takes them out. The number 2 is Pate. Stakes place sprinting at Oaklawn Park 2 starts back. Just didn't factor last time out in the fantasy going 2 turns, which makes me have some distance and class questions.
I agree with all that stuff. Maker took over last time. What he likes to do is when he takes these horses over, stretch them out and see what happens. They stretched her out. Nothing that good happened, Dan. I didn't see a big excuse for her. She was no factor.
The saga of Hoosier Filly continues. She began her career like a potential star. She won her first 3 stakes races in the manner that fans were not only talking Kentucky Oaks, they were talking Kentucky Derby. Well, what we've seen this year has been all sizzle, no stake. She's been very disappointing in 2 races. If you believe, you finally get a price.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We'll see what kind of price she goes off, because that's the first thing you have to wait and see. She's been hard betting all of her starts. Listen, she was pretty bad last time, and I didn't really want to give her a big excuse for it. I was willing to give her a pass for the Rachel Alexandra. She sort of stumbled at the start, wound up in behind horses and boxed up for a long way, and maybe it affected her kick in the stretch. She was bad last time, and I didn't see the excuse.
Well, she was in against Pretty Mischievous, who came back to win the Kentucky Oaks. On her best day, we know she could step. She's been working bullets for trainer Tom Amos. Up next is Merlaza. She's a head away from coming into this race undefeated from 4 starts. And this is a very likable win last time out against stakes competition. Her first try around 2 turns at Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, it's late in the game here, as you can see from the replay, before she, starts making up ground and gets to the top in this race at a very short price. But man, they walked in front of her. She was boxed up behind horses for almost the entire trip then. It was very late when she got clear. She really ran when she did get clear, though. I think that race is better than it looks on paper. She's all upside at this point.
Trainer Todd Pletcher conditions our next 2 entrants, the 5 Frosty O'Toole, the 6 Miracle. Let's start with Frosty O'Toole, who in her first start for Todd didn't really fire in the grade 3 Gazelle. It was a race that didn't have a lot of pace. She just couldn't quicken at the end. She should get a little bit more to run at here. This is kind of an important race that'll prove where she fits from a stakes standpoint.
That's a very good way to put it. I thought her 2 wins at Tampa when they switched to the dirt were fine. It felt like a pretty good race, a spot in the Gazelle last time to test and see what they had. She didn't run that well. I thought she was in a perfectly good position in that race. Never reached contention, was no factor through the stretch. Very disappointing. We'll see if she can rebound.
I think the 6 Miracle is going to be forwardly placed under Arad Ortiz. This New York bred ran very well in the Rachel Alexandra. In her first start of the year, she went right to the top. She held second. She was only beaten 3/4 of a length by Pretty Mischievous. And last time out of the Gulfstream Oaks, if you want to argue, the start cost her the race. I won't argue.
Yeah, I guess so. And they didn't really use her speed after that. And maybe that's just a problem for her. She does seem like a filly who wants to be forward. I guess you could give her a pass for that one. She was fine in the Rachel Alexandra 2 starts back. Obviously, the horse that beat her is very good. She had all the best of it that day, Dan. Backed up the fractions up the backstretch, kept the tight back behind her. She ran well. She was only second best.
Our next filly's a little bit slow on paper, but she's coming into this race in very good form. It's the Godolphin homebred, the number 7 Comparative. She's won 2 in a row, including this race, a first level allowance at Keeneland, going 1 mile and a 16th. She has shown tactical speed in slower paced races. It'll be interesting to see where she is early if they go faster.
It kind of feels like she is one of those fillies who a fast pace could really affect her in this race. We'll see how they go early in this race. I think she's been fine winning her last 2 starts, Dan, to be honest with you. I wanted to like both of those races more than I actually wound up liking them. She has a problem with her lead changes in the stretch, which is a big problem for her. She's got the pedigree. She's got the connections. She could improve here. She's going to have to.
Balpool has won 3 of her last 4 for high percentage trainer Rob Atras. Now she's going to try 2 turns for the first time after this race. Now, she found a great spot in off-the-turf Memories of Silver Stakes that only attracted 4 horses, and she looked good winning.
Yeah, I mean, she did what she was supposed to do in that race, and that is, sort of win that race pretty easily. I think the horse that she wound up beating, the second finisher there, is pretty good, but may not want the mile. We'll see, Dan. Big questions in front of her here. This is a huge step up in class.
Faiza, of course, was ineligible for the Kentucky Oaks because she's trained by Bob Baffert. Instead, she prepped for this race in the Santa Anita Oaks, her most recent start. Let's watch Faiza, and she made a nice move in tandem with the runner-up. That horse tried to make a move 3 furlongs out to get into the race. Faiza ran with her a little bit, and then Faiza put her away.
Yeah, she did. I mean, it was certainly a big step in the right direction for Faiza last time. I have no argument with the performance there. I even like that they took her off the pace a little bit there, Dan. A 90-1 shot, went to the lead in there. They just sat off her. It was no big deal to them. She improved in there. She'll be more forward here, I suspect. Again, I don't really have any knocks on her. She's sort of beating the same horses out there in Southern California, Pride of the Nile twice, and Tell Me No Lies twice in her last 2 starts. I don't know. I think this is a tougher race for her, but maybe she's this good.
It is a tougher race. She's going to have to go 1 mile and an 1/8 for the first time. She's going to have to cope with the ship. She finally ran that fast race last time out, an 89 buyer. Taxed is the number 10, and I'm a big fan of Taxed. If there was a Taxed fan club, I'd be the president, but I don't think there is. Second last time out in the Grade 3 Fantasy. She ran very well behind Wet Paint, who just swept through the Oaklawn Series for 3-year-old fillies this winter. She was in behind horses. Wet Paint got the jump on her. She came out. She showed some moxie.
Really liked the way that she finished in there and got a little bit unlucky. Not suggesting she was going to win, but that was a really good performance and an improved performance from her. You liked her all winter at Oaklawn, Dan. We did all those stakes races. You kept picking her. I thought you were crazy. I think you were right. She ran great last time.
The 11 is Cats in the Timber. She's locally based and trained by Brittany Russell, and she won a win and you're in for the Black-Eyed Susan last time out. This is the Weber City Miss. Her first start around 2 turns. Now she's game to win this race, but this race came back very slow as 66 buyer.
This is not going to get it done as they move her way up in class for this. I guess she deserves the chance, Dan. Her recent form is okay. She's got to do a lot better.
Towhead the 12 is stakes placed on turf, but her last 2 races against the likes of Wet Paint and Taxed, they leave a lot to be desired. Now she draws a very difficult outside post.
Yeah, just very disappointed in her most recent start. I don't know what kind of trip she's going to be able to get in this race. She is a horse who has tactical speed. Maybe it all works out for her from post 12. She was bad last time, and I can't go back to her.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Black-Eyed Susan. Faiza is going to be favored. I think she gets through this. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'm not way against Faiza. I don't think I want to take a short price on her, though, Dan. I don't think she has to win this race. I want somebody else, the number 4, Merlaza. I like the way that she's headed. Her last win, better than it looks on paper.
A lot of upside potential, and she's still going through the learning process. Yeah. If she puts it all together up here, she already has the physical attributes. We'll see if Faiza continues her unbeaten ways in the Black-Eyed Susan.